During the winter of 1950, Ferrari's designer Lampredi developed a V12 4.5-litre unsupercharged engine for 1951, and a big man to drive the big car, Froilán González from Argentina. BRM drivers Reg Parnell and Peter Walker viewed the new Ferraris with mixed feelings at the British Grand Prix. Could the British cars actually beat the Italian Alfas and the new untried Ferraris? The newsreel was patriotic to a fault.
BRM's Parnell, number 6, were watched with keen satisfaction by Earl Howe and Raymond May. And there goes Walker, number 7. On their performance in this race, the BRM's future possibly defended. In spite of burns, their drivers carried on magnificently. Number 2, driven by Fangio, is one of the Alfas, and Alfas have a habit of winning, though not today. Victory was destined for González, number 12, in a Ferrari.
The Alfas are carrying nearly 70 gallons of fuel, but still need frequent pit stops for more, a total of 200 gallons, while the big Ferraris forge ahead. Parnell's BRM too refuels. He will finish 5th, Walker 7th. The only places ever to be gained in a Grand Prix by these BRMs.
But there goes González in a terrific spurt to win the race at an average speed of 96.11 miles an hour.
At last, the supercharged Alfettas have been defeated. The Ferrari team are ecstatic. Fangio congratulates his fellow Argentinian González. Sadly, it was the end of the road for Alfa Romeo, who withdrew from Grand Prix racing. They retired with honour. The 12 158 cars had, between 1947 and 1951, scored 31 victories in 35 starts, a record which remains to be equalled. The end of the Alfa team was the virtual end of Formula One. BRMs having failed, Ferrari had no opponents. So the BRMs, which cost £200,000, had to run in Formula League. In this race at Dundrod, Stirling Moss was left on the line, but got his BRM going. But both BRMs retired, beaten by Mike Hawthorne's £2,000 Formula 2 Cooper Bristol. Much to the disgust of the young Stirling Moss.
I have driven and raced, I think, something over 80 cars in my life, and that was without doubt the worst car I ever sat in. I spent a lot of time with it in Monza. It was enormously powerful, of course, 570 horsepower, but the suspension, the steering, everything was really bad. It was a disgrace.
Why, with ample money available, were BRMs unable even to challenge the Italians? BRM chronicler Rivers Fletcher.
Well, the original BRM, the V16, was a fabulous idea, but I'm afraid the project was beyond the facility. It was a very complicated car, potentially the fastest and the most powerful Grand Prix car of its time, and in fact it proved to be about the fastest and the most powerful, but not sufficiently reliable.
So Stirling Moss drove a Cooper Alta, and the ebullient Mike Hawthorne was signed by Ferrari. By then, 1953, all Grand Prix races were to Formula 2. Moss is relaxed on the Cooper Alta, which is underpowered. Hawthorne is driving his Ferrari aggressively. Despite his more polished style, Moss can make no impression. Hawthorne never looked polished, but he won the Silverstone race at 92 miles per hour. It has to be said that there was little love lost between the two young English drivers.
Well, I'm very pleased, of course, and I think we ought to congratulate Stirling on driving today after his fantastic crash on first day's practice. Very lucky man. And
young men of Hawthorne and Moss's generation only just missed flying the fighters of World War II. Grand Prix driving in the 1950s required the same courage and skill. Witness Hawthorne after striking oil. This 1953 Formula 2 race has the new 250F Maserati, driven by González, now known in the British press as the Wild Bull of the Pampas. Hawthorne's Ferrari passed by the Maserati of Fangio. But ahead of all, Ascari drives his 2-litre Ferrari to yet another victory, having lapped the field, bar Fangio. At the end of the 1953 season, the old Formula One was officially abandoned, and a new Formula One for unsupercharged cars of 2.5 litres was decided on. Thus, constructors could enlarge the existing simple 4-cylinder 2-litre engines, helping small concerns like the British Connaught. John Watson tested a 1954 Formula One 2.5-litre Connaught, which was to give Britain his first Grand Prix win since 1924.
I'll talk you through the gauges while you're doing that.
Okay.
The engine oil temperature,
Yep.
you'll probably only get about 50 or 60 degrees on a day like this. Engine pressure will run between 80 and 100 pounds. Fuel pressure would normally run at 6 pounds. Water temperature should run no more than 80, and the gearbox pressure for the pre-selector will fluctuate between 20 and 60 pounds.
The ticking is the electric fuel pump, but no self-starter is fitted.
Because it doesn't have maybe the extreme of power, you tend to feel that the handling is maybe greater than it is. But certainly in its form, it's comfortable to drive. You're not embarrassed by any power in a corner or accelerating out of a corner. In the Connaught, you are very much between the wheels, and which of course is what we see in contemporary Formula One these days. I think it's a significant car, a make of car that has not really received its recognition, mainly because it was on a very limited budget and the team were not able to go to the length that the European teams were able to do in the early 50s and middle 50s. But its contribution, I think, is important, and it's probably been very understated, in fact, by history. You know, the Connaught, I think its only power was the factor that prevented it from being, you know, the first successful post-war Grand Prix car.
But the competition from Italy would still be formidable, for Ferrari too will develop a car for 1954. But as the old season drew to its close and drivers swapped lies about their firm's intentions for the new formula, a faint shadow was cast. For Phoenix-like, a star had risen in the east, a 3-pointed star. The Germans were coming back.